Bem-vindos ao nosso programa Entre Amigos, Conversando com o Mundo. E hoje nós temos uma entrevista especial com o senhor Drago Stambuk, que é o embaixador da Croácia. E nós vamos então conversar um pouco sobre todas a história, a espiritualidade, a beleza do seu país. So, Mr. Drago, welcome. I'm glad that we can discuss a bit about your culture, your history, about your work also. I know that you are a doctor. You have been practicing medicine for quite a while, and more recently, you have been involved in politics. And as you told me before, you see politics as something that has to be used to heal the world, to heal the person, to heal the countries. So I would like to speak with you a little bit about how you feel about being a diplomat.
Yes, being diplomat and politician, it's not the same. I mean, diplomat is one who is smoothing over things, who is connecting, who is always trying to find the positive tint in the relations, while politicians have agenda and he wants to achieve something, he wants to be re-elected. The problem with politics, as I see, is that it cannot be, or it's very difficult for politics to be preventional, especially in democracy as such, because next year you will be elected or re-elected, and if you don't get points, if you don't score points, because politicians always want to score points, you are not going to be re-elected. So the problem is that, for example, sometimes this is terrible to say, politicians would rather extinguish the fire than prevent fire catching the building. I mean, I'm speaking very metaphorically and very generally. Because if you prevent the house getting on fire, there is no kudos out of that. Nobody will give you credit for that. But if you extinguish the fire when it has caught half of the building, you will get credit out of that. People say, great hero man, he has stopped the fire, so let's reward him with new elections or re-electing him again, and so on and so on. So the gratitude game inside this scheme of politics is, I would say, not noble one. I would not say dangerous, but sometimes it can be also dangerous. Because we know that politics is dealing with common good agenda, looking after people. It's an extremely noble activity, and it has been in the past. Old Greeks' concept of politics was concept of noble activity. One who looks after many this has been lost, and we see there is a lot of corruption among politicians. Politicians are very much oriented towards their own profits, their own private goods. I will now quote you one beautiful Latin saying, which is inscribed at the entry of Dubrovnik Republic Viceroy's Palace. Dubrovnik is one of the most beautiful cities on earth, and the Republic of Dubrovnik was governed by people who were very wise, so that Francisco de Miranda, when he came to Dubrovnik and spent few months there, is one of precursors of Bolivarian revolutions. He was so impressed by the way how Dubrovnik Republic ruled itself for centuries in between all those enemies, Turks, Venice, etc. Dubrovnik was competitor of Venice. What was written at the Viceroy's Palace there, and that's why Francisco de Miranda, in his first independence speech, spoke, saying that Dubrovnik Republic should be an example for Latin American republics how to rule themselves. So what was written, I'm coming finally to the point, obliti privatorum publica curate, which means, if you translate it into English, forget your private interests and look after public good. One who looks after public good is a noble character. I would like to see more noble characters among politicians who forget their private interests and look after public good. So politics has become corrupt, and the standing of politicians is so low. Everybody knows that.
It's a pity.
It's a great pity for our earth. And if we are going to survive in this world, we must have better politicians. If we are going to survive in this shrinking world, which is becoming smaller and smaller, We must expand our hearts. We must invite people who are Mahatmas, who will give to the world, to the mankind, who will be open, who will give them love and receive love. Opening our hearts is the duty of the moment. If we don't open our hearts, if we don't give love and receive love among ourselves, we as mankind are finished. The earth will be finished.
And as a doctor, you believe in prevention.
I believe in prevention, and I must tell you, when I started this diplomacy business at the beginning, or even before the beginning of the war in former Yugoslavia, because you know Croatia is one of the republics, 6 republics of former Yugoslavia.
Yes.
I first time went to foreign office. One morning I woke and I said, I was so anxious when I realized getting all these signals from former Yugoslavia. I was living in London there, then as medical doctor doing my liver research. I'm internist and gastroenterologist, but in London I specialized in liver diseases, and after that in infectious diseases and HIV at the end. So one morning I woke, I asked information, what's the number of the foreign office? And I called them, I asked for the Yugoslav desk, and I said, I would like to see something. I see war is coming in my country. Can I see somebody and tell them about it? They were a bit suspicious. It was very early, and when you start doing things early, when you see too well, and when it's too early for the others to comprehend what's going on, you can be in troubles. Anyhow, I came to foreign office. In fact, they didn't want to receive me in foreign office. They received me in Red Lion's pub in Whitehall, the guy who just recently left Brazil as ambassador. And we recognized each other because we said, I will wear glasses like this and that. I gave him one document which was already published, which was, if you were a little bit intelligent, already it was telling what will happen in Yugoslavia. One nation was unhappy of equality that was laid there bare, and the Serbian Academy of Science wanted to take over the country. So Yugoslavia was supposed to become a Serboslavia. No others that were equal before that under Tito could not stomach idea of not being equal anymore. So it was obvious that this plan can be achieved only by war. So I gave him this document, and I told him, I'm a medical doctor, and I'm in favor of preventive medicine. I'm coming as somebody who thinks that prevention is absolutely necessary, and that your UK politics and diplomacy should behave in preventive way if you are concerned about well-being of country called Yugoslavia.
Yes.
And you see, prevention was not achieved, especially not early, because in politics, diplomacy, you need to get problems to start solving them. You cannot start solving problems before they are obvious to the public. Only when they are obvious to the public, yes, but you must be visionary and you must be statesman to do this, what I'm talking about, to prevent problems. Because preventing doesn't bring credit, And I was very pleased in '92, Boutros Ghali, who was the Secretary General of the United Nations, for first time in history mentioned concept of preventive diplomacy.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Thanks God.
Well, it's interesting. Croatia has been an empire in the past, kingdom, right? In the Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages.
It was quite big kingdom, and
yes.
We had, I'll tell you something very strange, or very, very, very noble and good. The popes, you know, then were those who were granted titles and to kings, etc. And there was one agreement between Holy See and Croatia that Croatian king will never go out of the country and conquer other people's lands. And this is part of our even mythology and our political thinking, that we should never conquer our lands. We will always defend ourselves and will try to be there where we are.
Just to be happy with what you have.
This beautiful part of the world. But problem is, when you're in the most beautiful and geopolitically extremely important part of the world, everybody wants part of you. Mm-hmm. That's also very dangerous. So you are blessed, but at the same time cursed by the nature, by the resources, by the position, by the beauty.
But you went through several different stages now, with several wars, several invasions that you suffered.
You know, if you look the shape of Croatia, you will see that it's eaten up from all sides.
Yes.
And this, the shape of Croatia teaches you volumes. From southeast, there was Ottoman Empire taking pulp out from east, from north, from west, cut here, cut there, cut there.
Yeah.
Believe me, it's the most unusual shape one country on earth has.
And when, after the World War II, then it became part of the Iron Curtain. Yeah, part of Yugoslavia, part of Iron
Yugoslavia
Curtain.
was something in between. Tito was a leader who imposed himself. One-party system it was, communist system, which ruled.
But did it change much, when you became communist, due to the international?
But communists were also atheists, and that's a problematic part. And also, one party, it's not democracy. When you have one party, I mean, you must be.
But did you lose your religious roots?
Honest. No, we did not. But of course, you had problems if you practice your religious roots. You had problems. Especially the church, Catholic Church, was always in some kind of opposition to the system. And it was the biggest opposition. And the communists were mostly afraid of Catholic Church. But the church suffered
the church had to be closed. All the churches were prohibited at that time.
Not so drastically, but it was always an easy relationship. And always, you see, to be communist, to be modern, to be progressive meant that you should not be religious.
I see.
But that was, of course, as we know, very shameful kind of attitude.
Bom, nós vamos dar um breve intervalo e já voltamos com a entrevista com o embaixador da Croácia, o senhor Drago. Estejam conosco. Estamos de volta com o nosso programa Entre Amigos, Conversando com o Mundo. E hoje nós estamos entrevistando o embaixador da Croácia, o senhor Drago Stambuk. E na primeira parte da nossa entrevista eu não mencionei que ele também é um poeta. In the first part of the interview, I didn't mention that you're a poet and you have been writing many books and poetry. Yes. So perhaps you would like to read us some poem, especially in Croatian and then in English, so that we can hear how it sounds like Croatian.
Okay, I can read you one poem which is very appropriate for this program. It is called Zephyr. Zephyr. Ako imaš dva kruha, daj jedan siromahu, drugi prodaj i kupi jasmin, da nahraniš svoju dušu. That's, in a nutshell, the philosophy of mine here.
Yeah, you must feed not only the body, but the soul.
Yes, help those who are less fortunate than you and give them this bread. But the most important bread is one, that is to feed your soul. The bread that comes from buying jasmine to invigorate and beautify your soul.
Because when you feed your soul, you're able to give yourself to the world in a much more comprehensive way.
Also, when I came to Brazil, I was very new and a little bit lonely. So I was very overwhelmed by the nature. In the past, I was ambassador to Japan, Korea, India, Egypt, all these old civilizations. And here I was faced with something new, new world. New world, but new world which hasn't completed itself. Overwhelming nature and space, and I started writing poetry. I wrote in few months' time of one of my most recent books called Nebo Bunaru, Sky in the Well, which is going to be translated into Portuguese and published in few months' time, I expect. And what I faced was this nature, overwhelming power of nature here, and this creation that comes from the earth, the rotting of these creations that falls back again to the earth. And this overwhelming sense of, I think I captured in some poems, and I will try to read you one in Croatian, unfortunately not in English. It is called Alvorada. It has title Alvorada in Croatian book. And maybe by listening to the rhythm of this poem, you will feel maybe something of this what I'm talking about.
It's interesting that each language has its own rhythm, and the sound tells about the soul of the country.
But I think the soul is mostly in the language, and I cherish language more than anything else, a part of human beings and our heart. But I always say that my homeland is my language. Alborada. Truplo, trulo, trune tiho, kano šumor crne kiše, što moči ga skroz na skroz. Truplo, trulo, trune tiho, gnječi crve, bubeg liste, blijede gljive, sitne zvijeri, trune tiho, posve tiho. Donosi nam humus čisti, plodnu zdjelu za sav rod. Truplo, trulo, truneć tiho. Iz vlažnosti život klija, buja, pupa, razvija se. Trune tiho, posve tiho. Puno, malo, malo, puno, suho, vlažno, meko, trdo. Truplo, trulo, trune tiho. Truneć tiho, truplo raste. By rotting slowly, this trunk of whatever, of plant or whatever, grows. So this dichotomy of growing and rotting and disappearing.
New life.
I think that's what I captured in this poem. I believe I captured it well. And all the other poems are very, very unusual and very much diagnostic. I'm diagnostician when I write poetry. I always like to capture something which is the most important and to try to get the heart of the matter out and then to preserve it in a poem and of course transmit it to the others. I hope that some of this, what I captured in Croatian language, has been or is going to be captured in translations in Portuguese language. The title of the book is Seu em Pozzo, and it's going to be published in Rio Grande do Sul at a university press.
That's good. You know, our countries have a lot in common regarding nature.
Yes.
We have beautiful nature, beautiful beaches. You're also known for the, I haven't been there, but I hope I will in the near future. The beauty of the beaches, of the mountains is something fantastic.
No, the beauty of Croatia is overwhelming. I always quote Dostoevsky. He said that the beauty will save the world. And then when I'm speaking about Croatia, I very often quote Dostoevsky and say, because Croatia is so endowed by beauty, maybe with a tongue in cheek, the role of Croatia in saving the world is paramount.
Yes.
Because beauty is, by beauty here we mean also principles, ethics, dharma, not only that's what we see as beauty, but...
Since you have such a beautiful country, what have you done to preserve such a beautiful place? Because you know, here in Brazil we are watching a lot of devastation, of destruction of our forests, of our
But I just
beaches.
visited Amazon, and I must tell you, I was extremely overwhelmed.
Yeah, Amazon is quite well preserved, but no,
yes, but the other parts.
if you go to the beaches...
But you know, the part of the progress is to destroy. That's the problem. We have something which is called sustainable development, but unfortunately sometimes I feel that this sustainability is just a beautiful word to cover up the destruction which follows.
But in Croatia...
But in Croatia, partly.
Did you succeed in preserving?
I think we did, up to the point. But I'm very worried about the future, because the beauty attracts. People want to come. Everyone wants to buy a little bit here, a little bit there, one island. And if you start developing the coast in a way that there are some tendencies, you are destroying it. So I always say that less is more. For my beautiful small country and island I'm from, less is more. Don't overdo it, don't overwhelm it. If you are going to build, you must build in a way our traditional architecture is done. You must be part of the nature. You must not fight the nature. Nature is your ally, your friend, not your enemy. So we are trying to this concept. You're trying to control development and make it sensible and in line of human needs, and human needs on long run, not for today. You must always think for long future. So this is the mantra in Croatia, but because development has its own rules, many people want to come to invest. They invest in huge apartments, this, that. I'm sometimes very worried about that, and development should be controlled. Development is also eating up our planet. Sometimes I think that Earth is, I told you earlier that our world is shrinking. We have less and less space. We have less and less resources, too many people. So if we are going to survive, as I said, we must expand our hearts. We must be noble in characters. We must be caring. If we don't care and if we don't have love for our planet, we will destroy it. I can say that now how I see our planet, it's like a snake that eats its own tail. And many people are not aware that this snake, we are eating our own tail, and that it goes on, and then we will eat up everything. The rubbish is produced in enormous amount. We are not recycling that. Ecological devastation, you know, this devastation, droughts and floods, climate change is really, really worrisome thing. And we must be very careful about what we do. I think we are already a little bit behind of what we should have done, and maybe it's already too late. This is very dramatic what I say. I know. But sometimes I think that we are behaving like people on Titanic. Titanic, everybody pours champagne, dances, waltzes heard around you, everybody is happy, and the iceberg is just behind the corner. Yeah.
But the party must go on.
We are not ourselves, believe me. We are not sensible enough to understand that we are at peril, that we, maybe 20 more years, I don't know, what are we doing? And the progress as such, or growth as such, as medical doctor I can say that growth can be, when child grows, that's good. But if part of your body grows, cancer, but that's a growth which should be avoided. Sometimes I see a lot of cancerous growth on our planet, which is eating and destroying our beautiful and only planet. We have no other one.
Now, I would like you to speak a little bit about the experience of the breaking up of Yugoslavia. What lessons did you learn? Because you had several nations that used to live together, and the language, as you said, is almost similar. You couldn't understand each other. And somehow you managed to survive and live together.
We managed to live together, but, and that was a relatively good country.
Yeah, but what happened that this coexistence was no longer possible?
I think if you have some evil characters, people are wonderful and terrible at the same time. Sorry to say this. People have capacity to be angels and capacity to be devils. Angelus Silesius said, humanity without divinity is bestiality, and this bestiality was shown in its worst in the war in former Yugoslavia. And when I, as a human being, saw what's coming and what's going to happen, I became agitated, I became unhappy. I had to do something. And being a medical doctor and looking after 500 patients was not enough. I had to look after, let's say, 20 million people. That was my way of thinking, and that's why I moved from one field to another. But the notion of who I am and what I'm supposed to do was the same, to help people. I try to help and to be preventive in stopping this war, letting other people, politicians or whoever, to know that what is coming is going to be terrible.
But
this evil, you see, instead of, I dealt at the end of my medical career with AIDS. I said once, this, what I'm now fighting, is political AIDS. This is political AIDS, and I have to fight it. I have no other way but to fight it. So how can I fight it? By putting truth in front of. There were a lot of manipulations, lies, propaganda. Propaganda was unbelievable. So they were making people to be afraid. Oh, they will come and kill you tomorrow or something like this. Of course, manipulations were evil. The projection that one nation out of 6 in former Yugoslavia should be the master nation. It's something which was totally unacceptable for other nations. Yeah, you see in Brazil, You are cultura mista. Everybody should have their own rights. And when one nation thinks that it is above the others, that's an evil. We have seen it in history. I can even give this name in Yugoslavia, set a name. I don't want to even utter this terrible word. But evil is there, and we must handle it. People have capacity to be good and to be bad, they must develop themselves by education, and that's the only way.
We must promote the good, the unity,
of course.
What unites people, not what separates, because there's also something that unites and some things that separate.
But you see, that is the role of spirituality.
Yes.
And without spirituality, without this divine spark in each of us, we are close to animals.
Yes.
That's why these totalitarian systems that were anti-spirituality, anti-faith, etc., they were the worst that you can imagine. The Stalinism, the Nazism, all these systems that in certain forms are shown even today around the world. I think all we can do is to try to work on ourselves, to educate ourselves, to drink from these wise traditions. There are many beautiful traditions on our earth from Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Sufism, etc., etc. And all these traditions are there to nurture us, to help us to understand who we are and what is our duty on earth. Our duty on earth is to become better, to fuse with what's our real eternal home. And we are living here to making problems to each other without doing that's what's our utmost and most important duty, to be good people, so good that God would love us.
Well, we are in the end of our program, and it's good to know that we can learn a lot from the past. And thank you very much for your words, for your presence here in União Planetária. And we are together, and I hope Brazil and Croatia can work together towards this goal that you just mentioned of bringing up this spirituality, this living together, this cooperation that's so necessary.
The whole mankind should be one and should be together, and these trends that I spoke about, I believe, should prevail. Otherwise, there's no future for us.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful opportunity to be with you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Drago, thank you very much.
Thank you. It was great to be with you and to speak about things that we spoke about.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Então nós encerramos aqui o nosso programa e estão todos convidados para a nossa próxima edição. Estejam conosco.